Hey guys, how's it going?
Hi guys, hope you're well.
Yeah.
Been a while.
It's been a while, it's great to be with
Ramon.
and Bob, my friend.
Hey.
Fantastic.
Back to the Bob and Ramon show again.
I'm wearing out. Boris Johnson says we can have up to six people hanging around us, can we? Is that right,
No,
Bob?
outside.
Oh, not inside.
Outside. We're still doing this under the pretext of work.
Are we?
I think.
Are we working now?
We are working.
Okay. Sure.
We are working. Technically, it's a pretty fine line, frankly.
No, we're working, aren't we? This is hard work, isn't it?
I mean, the problem is we would be in the pub, you know, having a nice pint, because we're allowed to do that outside now. But certainly where I live, spaces to drink beer outside pubs are trading hands at enormous prices. It's madness.
Really?
You can't get in.
That's
Bummer,
a shame.
eh?
I was
Bummer.
looking forward to it.
So, you know, in the meantime,
Yeah,
we have
okay.
instead we have the miserable job of sitting down playing, you know, nice vintage guitars and talking stuff.
But before we do that, Bob, should we just pick up these pedals?
I think we should.
We've Free the Tone very kindly sent us some pedals to try out. These are really, really nice. And they're kind of like, we're actually today, Bob and I are playing through some Dumble clones. And these are actually like almost like a Dumble in a small box, aren't they?
They're trying to be the little Dumble in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, lots of people are trying. You know, you've got the Ethos, you've got the Dumbloid.
Yes.
You've got the G-Town.
Yes.
You know, there's
Ethos is good, isn't it?
the Ethos is
Good, yeah.
fantastic.
Our friend Davey Woodford from
Davey
Cyprus.
Woodford. Hi, Davey. I know you're going to watch this. Shout out to you, mate. And he's a top chap on Ethos, and the Ethos pedal is really nice.
The only bad
Really
thing
nice.
about Davey is that he supports Tottenham Hotspur.
Does he?
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
Well, I'm a West Ham fan. So.
Okay, because I wouldn't know one end of a football pitch from the other. So,
Okay. Cricket?
you know, no,
Rugby?
no. I've got a sport bypass.
Really?
I've
Badminton?
Total sport badminton. Underwater formation macrame's about my lot.
Croquet?
Croquet, that'd be nice. I'll play croquet in the garden. Can't play it.
Bowling?
A croquet set looks nice on the lawn.
It does, yeah. Bowls?
Do you know, about my age. About my age. There's a good bowls club around the corner.
Some cucumber sandwiches?
Now listen, these do not make cucumber sandwiches, these pedals, but they do make a pretty good sound. They are almost identical, but not quite.
Yes.
One's got black knobs, the other's got cream knobs. And one is designated standard, and one is designated HS type. And you got sent these for a quick evaluation? And
Yeah, Yuki, great guy. Yuki, and shout out to Emmy as well, who works with Yuki. Basically just trying them out, and I love them. What do you think, Bob? Because you heard them today, didn't you?
Yeah, we tried them out, and we like them. We had another friend of ours around, Diesel Martin.
From one of my favourite bands, The Equals.
From The Equals, and he's
down, 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 down.
Baby, come back. Right, enough of that. Oh, my famous singing voice. Anyway, he came around and had a listen as well, and played while we were sort of twiddling the knobs and stuff like that. And we had a pretty good time. Like with most pedals, you kind of start out and you think, don't know where I'm going, don't know what to do, you know, get a bit lost. Yeah. And then gradually we got the hang of these, and they're really good sounding pedals.
I don't think we're allowed to say anything too much about them, Bob.
Can I talk about those bits?
I don't know if you can.
Okay.
I don't know if you can. But what Bob wants to say is he's got this incredible thing. It's got this thing on top,
on the back,
and it does something rather nice, doesn't it?
It's really good.
Thank you, Bob. I'm most pleased with your.
I'll tell you what. We'll make you promise, because fooling around like this is one thing, right? We will do. Yeah. We'll do another video if we're allowed to talk about this wonderful thing on the back.
Yeah. Because I'm sure they're going to send us production versions.
Okay.
Yes. Are they? Can you send us production versions, please?
Please do, because actually these are definitely good pedals. I've tried most of those Dumble pedals. I mean, it's a bit out of curiosity rather than out of need, because having the amps, you know, you don't sort of need the pedal so much.
No, but we A/B'd these, didn't we, with your amps?
We did.
You know,
and we got them pretty close.
We
got them pretty close. So I've had better luck with some of the pedals than others. Definitely the one I've had the most luck with is also the most expensive, which is the Ethos. And also the Ethos pedal is, I mean, it's about that size. It's a big bugger.
It's a big,
but the clever thing about Ethos is one of my mates has got the Ethos with the 30-watt amp built in.
Has he really? What's
So
that?
all you need is the ethos and a little
Yeah.
speaker.
Wow.
And you've got like a gigging.
And they don't have tubes, do they? They don't have tubes in the valves. Do they have valves?
No, it's a
Yeah.
a D style, a D class, digital switching amp, 30 watts.
Wow.
It's. I mean, if you really want to be fussy and pissy about, I'm not using a tube amp. There's a bit of that, but the ethos still sounds really good.
That's incredible.
And as a get you out of jail at a gig type of piece of gear, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But this definitely gets close. And also we weren't just trying it through the posh amps. We were trying it as usual through my deluxe reverb, which it sounded really really good through. So it sounds fantastic through a normal amp.
It sounded really really nice. Yeah.
So there you go.
Right. So what have we got in our hands today, Bob? Because this has actually become one of my sort of guitars on my list that I want to get myself. Obviously, I'm not going to be probably able to afford the real deal here, but I think these are rather sort of kind of in vogue guitars. I think people are really, buying these up now, aren't they? And they're becoming quite something, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, apologies because we're going to talk about just 3 guitars today, which you've seen before in other videos, so there's nothing new being unboxed. But as Ramon says, we're talking about these for a reason. Several reasons. First of all, the vintage guitar market, the whole guitar market, during lockdown has just overheated. Everybody's been buying guitars, so new guitars, the price has been going up, amps and stuff. The price of vintage guitars has really been overheating.
Really, has it been going up?
Yeah, not just the super posh, but what's been happening. This always happens in the guitar market. The very top end just sails off into its own mad stratosphere. It's become like art collecting, like posh old cars. It's gone
like Dumble amps.
And like Dumble amps.
Yeah.
And like Trainwreck amps. But the bottom end of the market as well. So 330s, a favourite of mine. Juniors, Cherry Juniors.
Yeah.
They probably started last year. You could probably pick up a good one for about £4.5 sterling.
Yep.
£4,500. Now probably 6.
6 of the Queen's money, yeah.
6 of the Queen's money.
Right.
And so on. I mean, the TV ones like these, obviously more because of the rareness of the finish, but they've gone up. And so there was a time, beginning of last year, when if somebody was thinking of getting a reissue, a posh custom shop Gibson, so it cost them high 3s, middle 4,000s.
Right.
Maybe if they're going to buy a black 3 pickup gold ornate Les Paul custom, it's going to cost them 6,000 or 7,000 quid.
Yeah.
And my question to all of them was, why would you ever buy one of those when you can buy a Cherry double cut Junior?
Yeah.
And the answer is, I feel naked with only 1 pickup and 2 knobs.
Yeah.
But when I first got this guitar, which is a long time ago, I paid top dollar for this. Brought it in from the States. Actually, I didn't buy well at all. It was too much money. It's looked after me now because I had it a long time. But this guitar, I started playing it and thinking, Christ, it sounds like my Sunburst.
Right.
It's just the same articulation, the same
and
power.
You've got a Brazilian board. You've got the same mahogany.
Fat neck, all the rest of it.
So essentially, there's ingredients that are on the Les Paul bursts, aren't there? The same wood type.
Same wood and same kind of chassis tone.
Yeah.
And I found myself playing this a lot. I think it's a really powerful guitar. And then later on, I got that one, which is similar, but they're very similar in age. But this has got a skinnier 60 neck
and a beautiful bound board. So
board.
This is almost like a 335 neck, isn't it? Essentially.
Yeah, actually.
See that?
I've played some 60, 61 335s that have got a similar neck to that. Yes.
Can I just say that it's probably I'm the first person to make that comparison. Will you give me that one?
Well, I will.
Thank you very much.
If you like.
Or can I just say, sad news. I haven't talked to you about this, but sad news about Prince Philip.
Very sad news.
He was a great guy. I loved these because he took a step back, didn't he? Sort of let the Queen do her thing.
I think. I mean, apart from the fact he was clearly a bright bloke. 2 things.
Yeah.
First of all, he supported our monarch.
Yes.
Absolutely unswervingly for 73 years.
Yes, that's right. You can't take that away from him.
And to play second fiddle, to play rhythm guitar, if you like.
Yes.
Right. Such constancy, unbelievable. The other thing I liked about the bloke was that in a world where you get hung for saying anything that's vaguely off colour, off taste, out of order, you get hung completely. And for a bloke of a certain age like me, and I've grown up when actually talking like that wasn't racist or judgmental. It was risque and it was a bit of fun. Now I know that that's not the modern view, and I'll probably get hung for saying that, but Prince Philip was an incarnation of somebody who would occasionally say some things that were a little bit, you know,
it was totally
a little bit over the
totally
top.
un-PC now,
But totally un-PC.
But there were funny moments, like, you know, when they took the group photograph, and he was just like, "Oh, well, F's sake, just get effing on with it."
Yes,
it's hilarious.
And that was one of his catchphrases. You know, let's get on with it. Let's do it. Let's get it done. You know, he was just.
But apparently, he had a good friend who was just in the stables or something, and he was just a normal, ordinary guy. You know, nothing special. But he said he was very nice to him. Just ordinary people, you know.
And the other thing is, people said how brilliant he was with very young kids as well.
Right.
You know, so you know, he was just top bloke. So you know, chapeau to him.
Anyway, where were we?
Right, that's the Prince Philip obit, but respect to you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, back on these. So that's a slightly skinnier neck, but you know, these are the guitars that made me realise what an amazing pickup a P90 is. You know, the humbucker and the Stratocaster coil are not the only pickups on the planet.
So how old were you when you got this? I'm just wondering, because this is, for me, is a bit of a punky guitar. Were you going through a kind of a punky?
No. Not at all.
It's a bit of a Sex Pistols
No,
guitar.
I bought the Sunburst, and then I was kind of, you know, got used to the idea of owning a really nice old guitar. And I thought these old guitars are fantastic.
So it wasn't anything to do with the Sex Pistols and who's that other
Johnny
band?
Thunders.
The Johnny Thunders and
New York Dolls.
New York Dolls and the British band
Buzzcocks.
Buzzcocks.
Don't start me on the Buzzcocks. There's a whole bad smell about the Lost.
Oh,
yeah. No, we won't start there. I'm not going there. There's somebody in Manchester seems to hold an eternal torch for that thing. Yeah, enough said. leave it, and leave my Facebook feed alone.
Yes.
Yeah. So but these guitars were, you know, back in the day in the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, you could hardly give these guitars away. They had no status.
Yeah.
You know. So you know, when it came to punk, and punk was all about, you know, garage and low budget and all the rest of it, and they didn't have any money. I mean, they'd buy guitars that nobody else would buy.
Yeah, like
for nothing.
Steve Jones.
Yeah, for like you know. I mean, you know, my favourite story is the guy who was in the original incarnation of the Sex Pistols, a guy called Warwick Nightingale, who sadly is deceased now. But I was in a rehearsal with him one day, and he sidled up to me and said, "Do you want to buy this?" And he put up this really beat up single cut Les Paul Jr. in Sunburst with a pickup that was stuck on with a bit of gaffer tape. It was a pretty messed up guitar, but he wanted 50 quid cash for it. And somebody in a punk band would have given him 40,
right,
and then taken it home and replaced the tape,
yeah,
but done nothing else, and taken it out and gigged it.
Yeah.
You know, that was the punk ethic.
Yes.
You know, and also that whole punk sound, that kind of driving, bitey rock sound. P90, overdriven amp, do it yourself, the opposite prog, and all the pomp and shit. Yeah.
I mean, and these are beautiful because this celluloid, you know, pickguard is kind of got this tortoiseshell. It's just a beautiful,
fabulous.
It's absolutely. I mean, I don't know if this is going to come across on camera, but it's a beautiful pickguard. Really nice.
Closer. Yeah, that's good. You can get it there. See that.
And the yellow TV yellow because of obviously the black and white TVs in the time. They were
supposedly. Some people said it was so you could see it on TV, and some people said it was because that was what they called the finish that TV cabinets were sold in.
Oh right, okay. So we don't know which one.
We don't know. Never know.
And the frets, are these frets original?
Yeah, they are.
Because guys, these frets are absolutely beautiful. They're nice and chunky.
These are the big ones. So post 58, post 59 frets.
Yeah.
On both these guitars. Yep. But this neck is fatter and rounder. That one's skinnier.
And so on this we've got an adjustable stop tailpiece. So we've got two sort of Allen key, I think, adjustment. Allen keys are these?
Yeah. So you can obviously adjust the height that way, and you can adjust the overall intonation back to front. What you can't do is you can't do string by string intonation. And a lot of people don't like these wraparound guitars because they complain about the intonation.
Right.
All I can say is. Maybe I just don't play in tune, but I've never had a problem. I've got lots of guitars with these wraparounds. I love the sound because they make the guitar really really ringing.
Yeah.
You know, this one more than that one.
Yeah.
They make it ring, and you know, I love these wraparounds. But some people are very snooty about them, so I've got to have a Tunematic.
So what year is this?
These are both 60.
Both 1960.
Yeah.
So it's strange that this has got a kind of a 60s neck, but this one hasn't.
Well, interestingly, that serial number is earlier than this one.
Than that one.
Which just goes to prove that, you know, Gibson assembled in batches. They assembled from bits and pieces that were around the factory.
Yeah.
Back in those days, you know, everybody says that, you know, the later days of Gibson under Norlin and Fender under CBS, the guitars really suffered, and they did. On average, they did. Though you can get good ones from any era. But people say, you know, it's when the accountants came in and the people who made guitars stopped. But the truth is, remember, Leo Fender never let anything go to waste. So he'd be reusing tuners or machine or pickups or winding bobbins forever. He'd never let anything go to waste. In the Gibson factory, they never let a good part go to waste, even if they stuck this, you know, an old neck on a more modern body.
Well, it's similar. Remember that we were talking about the Explorers guys. Yep. And they got rid of all of them, didn't they? Pretty much. Because they were making them up to 63.
That's right.
So they're just, you know, if somebody didn't have anything to do, go and finish off those Explorers, get them out of the shop.
Yeah, that's right. So they very seldom wasted anything, you know. And the only thing is, I think, in the pre-Norlin and pre-CBS days, I think the watchword at the factory was, nothing goes to waste, but the objective here is to make a fine guitar. And I think the problem is when people who didn't know and appreciate and understand guitars came into the ownership and running of guitar companies, and suddenly it was like, I can see an opportunity to cut the cost on the corner of production line there, and nobody stood up and said, you're right, we can save money there, but we're now starting to cut into the guitar.
Yes.
Right? So there's a difference between Leo Fender's famous frugality, which incidentally led to the making of the finest guitars I've ever played,
and the most popular,
and the later accountant type frugality and process frugality of Norlin and CBS, which was,
although
by common consent, pretty much a flop.
Although, you know, those 70s, there is one thing to say about the 70s, you know, the sandwich bodies. One way you could say it's a cheap, you know, money, you know, cutting costs, but in another way, it's more labour intensive to glue a body, and it makes the guitar stronger, less prone to break in half. So you could, on one side, you could argue, well, it's actually an improvement. You know. But tonally, maybe it's not.
Tonally, for the most part. I mean, I've heard a couple of really good Pancake SG Les Paul Deluxes. So I've heard a couple of really good ones, but there was one of my pet hates. I know one of my chums, Connor Flitty, loves them. But in 1972 or thereabouts, Gibson started stamping the Gibson logo into the covers of humbuckers. My first Gibson had those, and I was so proud of the fact it was my first Gibson. I was so thrilled to have my first Gibson. But with hindsight,
you don't like that?
Well, actually, there was so much to hate about that guitar, from the wrong-shaped SG chamfer, the very skinny neck, the neck join, the paddle headstock, the horrible Bigsby, the cheap half-moon control plate, everything was wrong with it. I took the pickup covers off, you know, like everyone from Clapton did, to kind of supposedly give it a bit more oomph. The pickups underneath, early 70s, would have been T-tops. So now they've got their own following and all the rest of it. They were just Gibson humbuckers at the time. I didn't know any better. Many years later, like about a year ago, I found in a box, those two pickup covers.
Really?
Yeah, I sold them on eBay.
How much for?
I can't remember, but it was quite a lot.
Really?
It was quite a lot.
So you're kind of laughing at yourself, thinking, I can't believe I just made money out of this thing that I hate so much. Well,
there was that, but it was nice, you know. It was, you know,
buy a few pints of beer.
Bought a few pints.
One
of beer.
pint.
I think I think that went towards that probably went towards, you know, one tile in the new kitchen. Or so, but anyway, it was good news. But I hated those Gibson stamp pickups myself. You know, but I know there's aficionados out there who are really into all this 70s stuff, and good luck, because those guitars are a bargain. I mean, you can pick up an SG Deluxe, which is what mine was. I mean, everyone's peddling it as vintage, and like, in truth, guys, you know, you can say anything old is vintage.
Yeah.
No.
Even
no.
the Japanese copies are vintage now.
Absolutely, but actually, if you want to see what a vintage guitar is, just look at the price, because the price indicates what the demand is for the people who know.
Yeah.
So if you've got a guitar going for a few £100, it can be very old, but it was probably a piece of shit then, and it's probably a piece of shit
Like
now.
Some of those 60s sort of Univox guitars,
Semi-acoustic things. It was probably, it's probably, so it's got all kinds of cheese value and nostalgia value. But is it really a great guitar or just a conversation piece?
Yeah.
Right. Truth is, so vintage actually is self-defining. I'm not going to say a vintage guitar has got to be 32 and a half years old. It doesn't matter. There'll be a guitar out there that's not very many years old that is already showing every sign of, wow, this is going to be vintage. And there's going to be some guitars out there that are 60 or 70 years old that will never meet the definition of vintage. It's what the market by consensus demands.
Well, this guitar here, Bob, I think is like, and the same with this next guitar that you're going to get. But this guitar here, I first became sort of aware of this when I saw Larry Carlton playing one of these.
Yeah.
He played the song. He sort of, played jazz on one of these and did a whole jazz concert.
Yeah.
It was quite a famous concert actually on one of these things. And
Yeah.
so really what you've got here is, what I was saying earlier, like almost a 335 neck, and you've got your two pickups, so you can have. You can have that, and then you've got your tone. You've got your 50s. You've got your blues, sort of Chicago blues. You've got your jazz there. You got your rhythm in the middle, and what a versatile guitar, which would have obviously been a student guitar.
Yeah.
But it would have been a very good student guitar in its day, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and made with all the craft and quality and attention to detail the higher end models were made of, but without the binding and without some of the fancy attachments. And this one even more basic, single pickup. This was a student guitar, very definitely.
But this on if you look at the scratch plate on this one, it's got the 4 binding or the 3 binding, whatever.
So it's black 4-ply, yeah.
4-ply. So which even that is quite ornate. So it's it's no mean, it's not a piece of junk. It's actually they're very well made.
Yeah. Now actually we've started backwards because we've got the later guitars first. I'm actually going to switch guitars now in real time because should have started here really. The other guitar, which again, no news here, guys. You've seen this guitar before, but this is the 55 Junior.
And it's one of your favourites, isn't it?
This is a real favourite of mine. The reason it's a favourite is this might be a little loud. It's the it absolutely sings, this guitar. Just bloody sings. There's a lot of people who say that the single cut is a slightly more singy guitar than the double cut because you've got this whole area of extra contact.
Is it thicker as well? Do you think it's a little bit thicker? I think it is.
Yeah, it might be. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's a spot
So
thicker.
it's the thicker guitar.
So the Junior, was introduced in 1954. Originally, the bodies, I think they were made of maple.
Really?
I think so.
What's this one?
This is mahogany. By 55, it's mahogany along the mahogany neck, and the mahogany body and neck of these guitars is a big part of the tone.
Right.
Big part of the tone. That kind of warm.
Yeah.
With a bit of bottom in the tone.
It is it's a beautiful, it's a very warm tone, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Because remember, Gibson were, a company that made jazz guitars.
Yeah.
So their whole resting mind state was one of creating warm tone. It's got warm tone, but I've found this guitar, it's harder to play because it's got the earlier skinny frets.
It has, right.
Right.
So what year is this?
This is 55.
1955. Guys, think about that. 1955.
Which is when I was born.
Was that the year you were born?
Ouch. Yeah, that's why I bought it, because I bought it for my 60th birthday. Anyway, but this guitar, it definitely grips the note in a particular way. It's fantastic when you play it cranked up loud. It's really good.
Have you done concerts with this one?
Oh yeah.
And you haven't been sort of looking for a rhythm pickup? No.
No, because I mean, once you've got used to these chaps, there's so much going on here.
Yeah.
That you don't really need it. You just don't need it. I don't miss it at all. And again, you can tell this guitar's going to be good because it's just resonant. It's really resonant. The neck is slightly rounder, slightly thicker. As I say, skinny frets, so a little bit harder to play.
Yeah, it's got quite a nice chunky neck on it. It's not a baseball bat, but it's just
the other thing is, of course, these pickups, P90s, they vary considerably in terms of power. This is a reasonably hot one. Mm-hmm. I haven't even measured its DC resistance, but it sounds very fruity. So
is this essentially like a Les Paul body but without the cat? Is that how it works?
Well, it's the same shape. It's probably cut out the same jig. Right. So yes, because they could have attached. Although no, they would have had to cut it back because if you put a maple cap on top of this, it'd be really thick.
So
there's something going on. But again, it's made on the same production line by the same craftsman. It's the same craftsmanship for a student guitar.
Yeah.
And this guitar was introduced in this configuration and also with the neck set further into the body, the 3/4 version.
Oh really?
And originally in Sunburst, then it was introduced in a TV finish which was much more like Dijon mustard.
Yeah.
About 1956, I think.
Right.
Something like that. And that was also available in full size and 3/4. And then in 1956 they introduced the precursor to that guitar.
Yep.
The 2 pickup single cutaway Les Paul Special. That was only available in the TV French mustard cut.
And did it have a stop tail piece or the 2?
Stop tail piece.
Right, okay.
All stop tail pieces. Right. But they never made the Les Paul Special single cut in the Sunburst, except apparently for 1 or 2 special orders.
Question: did they ever make any juniors or specials with the 2-piece bridge, the stop tail piece?
I've never seen one.
So it's always just a stop tail piece.
As far as I know.
Right.
Yeah. Now a few people have retrofitted them.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, because as I say, some people get very snooty about intonation. And back in the day when, as I said, you could hardly sell these guitars, so you didn't think twice about sticking a drill in and putting a stop tail piece in.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have thought twice about it.
When Diesel from the Equals was over earlier, I love the Equals. We were talking about Gary Moore and Steve Jones, and apparently Steve Jones gave Gary Moore his guitar, but Diesel, and I think yourself, you saw Skid Row, didn't you, perform live with just a special, right?
This is the first Skid Row, the one that came out of Northern Ireland. Okay,
the good one.
Not the later American, I think, hair metal band.
I don't know what they were.
Some kind of metal. Anyway, they were all right. American rock band, fine. But this is the original Skid Row, who were the most fantastic cocktail of speed and chaos. Mm-hmm. My God, did they play fast!
I mean, I was saying, like, Gary Moore played every single note on the guitar
1,000 times.
1,000 times.
Oh, there was not a fret unturned.
No,
breathtaking. And he was so young. He was what, 17, 18?
Incredible. And he played one. He played one of these, right?
So he had a Cherry
SG.
Sorry, it's an SG. Well, yeah,
SG
it was a Cherry
special.
SG. So it was basically the guitar after that in the Gibson lineup. So this one ran until 60.
1960, and then Les Paul
61.
Right.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute. You've stumbled across. Yes. Part of the geekery.
Oh right.
Okay. Come back in a second.
Yeah.
So the guitar that came after this was the SG shape, 2 P90s, wraparound, and by then pretty skinny flat neck.
Yeah.
In the early days.
Yeah.
And that was, of course, all the early SGs.
Yeah.
Were still designated Les Paul.
Right.
For about the first year or two.
So can I just show this? Look at this. Look.
Why is it missing? Okay.
Bob, that's missing it.
So this one, whoa, there we are. This one's got Les Paul. The Banana Junior's got Les Paul. So the strange thing is, again, Gibson were a law unto themselves back in that day.
Yeah.
The Junior had this is known as the silkscreen logo. It had the silkscreen on all the way through.
Yeah.
If it was a TV Junior, then it had. This says Les Paul Junior. It would have said Les Paul TV Junior.
Like that one. Does that one have it?
This one should say. Let's have a look. TV model. I beg your pardon.
Could you show the our watchers?
TV
Our viewers.
model.
TV model. There you go.
Okay.
Guys.
Right. Now.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
That in cherry would have had Les Paul Special in the silkscreen up until for some reason about early 1960, 59.
Is that when they fell out with Les Paul?
No, that was later.
Oh,
Long before
right.
they made the change from Les Paul slab double cut to SG.
To SG, right? Okay.
Right, but for some reason on the Special,
Yeah.
and particularly the TV Special,
Yes.
it lost its silkscreen.
Oh, right.
Okay, so there's a period of, when I first came across this guitar, I thought, oh, that's a problem. The more research I did, the more I realised that there's a lot of late 59, 60 specials, both cherry and particularly TV, with no silkscreen. I don't know why they took it off, but
really
they did. So it's in other words, it doesn't make that guitar suspicious.
I just want to make a point. There's a really great guitar player. He's a good friend of mine. He grew up in the same area called Essex. Essex is a place in England. It's a very cool. The most poshest people out of England come from Essex. Is that
Some
right?
of the most stylish and sophisticated people in our small land, or not?
Actually, no. It's quite the opposite.
And the ladies are
Very famous.
of style, sophistication, and virtue.
They're very famous for the wrong reasons. Anyway, so I've got a great friend who actually just moved to Nashville, and I'm going to give a shout out because you spoke to him as well, didn't you? Owen Barry.
Oh God, yeah.
And he's a great
player.
Great player. He plays for Tal Wilkenfield, amongst others. He's a killer guitar player. He sometimes has a Dumble amplifier. He's a killer player, man. He's a red hot guitar player. And but anyway, he recently bought one of these, didn't he?
Special.
He bought a special, didn't he? Did he buy a special or a junior?
I don't know.
It was a junior, wasn't it? It was something like this. Pretty sure.
Okay.
And we were speaking to him, weren't we? Do you remember?
Yes. Just.
Bob, are you okay?
I must have been on the bourbon that day.
Anyway, guys, I promise you, Bob can't remember this, but shout out to Owen Barry, killer guitar player from Nashville. Check him out. You probably know him already. He's a really cool fella and great guitar player.
But
So
what did he buy? It was a single cut.
it was pretty much, and I think he had a Softail piece, which was from a '59 Les Paul.
All right.
It was the wrong one, and he sold it to Joe Bonamassa.
Oh.
He's obviously, you know Joe Bonamassa.
Well, he's a neighbour now, isn't he?
Is Joe Bonamassa from Nashville?
Well, he isn't from Essex.
He's too much of a gentleman to be from Essex.
Yeah, true.
You know,
True.
Joe Bonamassa is a cool
Anyway,
fella.
back to the knitting.
Yeah, sorry.
Back to the knitting. So anyway, here we are. So I mean, you know, you can judge for yourselves, but the guitars are all very different. It's interesting. You really like that guitar.
I love this. It's just.
And of the
marvelous.
three, I mean, I know it's a nice problem to have, but of the
Yeah.
three, that's the one of these I play the least.
Well, I just think it's so versatile.
This is the one I play the most because, you know,
I can imagine you.
I'm not going to put myself up there with Leslie West for a minute, but Leslie West, the guy in Mountain, he played these.
Can I just say
And
something?
the sound he got, oh.
Because I rarely pay Bob a compliment, as you know, guys, on this channel. But Bob has got a very smooth guitar sound. It's a very succinct and subtle touch of the fingers, you know, which I'm sure his wife has had the benefit of for many years. And,
We really are covering the ground today, aren't we? Whoa!
and anyway, guys, you see, if I played that guitar, I'd probably sound too raucous. But you've got quite a nice touch. So you kind of guitars where I would find hard to play, you can draw a smoother sound out of them. See what I mean?
I think it's just what you're looking for. That's the
That
sound.
was a backhanded compliment.
It was and very kind of you. It's very very nice of you. 'Cause I mean, Ramon is a proper guitar player.
No.
You know, like
Yeah.
professional kind of. And I'm just a kind of hanger on with a bit of money and some nice
Not at all,
guitars.
not at all.
But you know, it's what you get to a point in the guitar when you can sort of play it, And then you get to that lovely place where you go, okay, well, what am I hearing? What do I want to hear coming out of my hands?
Yeah.
And that's what I want to hear. I mean, I've mentioned it before, but I'm a shout out to Pete Wood, would he?
Yes,
you know?
great guy.
Great guy, you know, aficionado of the Dumble style out and all the rest of it.
He's a cool fella.
Pete has taken this to another level. I mean, apart from the fact he's a terrific player and he plays all those kind of jazz scale things that I can't even think. But the most interesting thing about Pete is that Pete can probably take one of those old 60s pieces of junk I've just dissed, and he's got something in the way he touches and holds the guitar. He makes anything sound like it's going through a Dumble with that bloom. He's got the bloom is entirely in his fingers. So it's amazing to watch.
So this is what you've got, and for me that guitar would just be a little bit maybe too much of a one-trick pony for me to get some. But you can get your sound. Your sound you can because you've got a nice touch. You know what I mean? And that's really, guys. It's all about the touch at the end of the day. You can. It doesn't matter what guitar you're playing. This is a bit of Ramon's philosophy here.
Well, while we're on philosophy, actually, I just, didn't intend to try this, and I'm not going to try and preach and give lessons, but I'll tell you one thing I'm concentrating on in my own playing a lot at the moment, which is just if you're playing standard pentatonic, things like that, particularly about that register. When you're down here on the 4th and 5th strings, I'm spending a lot of time at the moment, subconsciously, thinking about the pressure of my finger on the strings there, because what I found is it really, if you want to get that Clapton Beano tone, then particularly down here with a bit of drive, the finger pressure that you apply, that seems to be the way to get that Beano tone.
Yeah, because he would have been playing 8s and very loose. He would have been very, very loose. It wouldn't have been, not more like probably some guitar players. I'd imagine Gary Moore has a very, contorted. You can almost see.
He plays really hard.
And that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, really hard.
Whereas Clapton's the opposite. It's all.
Yeah.
It's very much.
But the strange thing is when you get down here, I actually find that I'm pressing the strings. I'm obviously not pressing them hard enough to bring them out of intonation, but I'm certainly trying to press them harder because I'm finding that the tone seems to live somewhere in the finger pressure. So just a thought for you guys, if you're into that kind of Beano sound, Clapton music, give it a go. Just experiment with the finger pressure there because it works.
Another one of your friends, actually, Alan Darby. He's got a great touch, hasn't he?
And his touch is fantastic.
Yeah.
His attention to his tone. I mean, he will obsess for hours to get that 0.01% improvement. But also, the thing everybody who knows him says the same thing. His vibrato is absolutely.
It's all about the vibrato.
Beautiful, and his vibrato is superb. So, Alan, if you're watching this, well, your vibrato is some of the best in the world. It's fantastic.
And the thing is a lot of people spend a lot of time looking at pedals when they should be working on their vibrato. Yeah.
The truth is, you get yourself a decent guitar, you get yourself a decent amp, most important, and a cable. And if only you could lock yourself away and not obsess with new toys and new gear and just play for a while.
Well, we were talking to Diesel from that band, The Equals, and he was saying that when he was starting off, in the band, playing on the scene, playing at the Marquee, whatever, playing at Abbey Road, it was just a guitar and a Marshall JTM 45.
Yeah,
it was an SG through a JTM 45. That was it.
I mean, back in that day, if a really flashy setup might have included a wah pedal and a fuzz face or something like that, then you might have gone really, really, pushed the boat out and got yourself a treble booster or something. But I mean, the most elaborate pedal board in the world was 3 bits of stuff stuck together with cheap leads on the floor.
It was just guitar and amp, really.
Yeah.
So what did you have? The effect was in your fingers.
Yeah.
The vibrato was in your fingers. That's what you know. So one last question: what would you advise people who want to buy one of these beautiful guitars? Okay. For example, a mint one or a knackered in one. What would you say?
Okay, so it really all depends. It all depends on 2 things. It all depends on your means, how much money you've got, and it all depends on why you're buying. So I quite unashamedly, I'm buying these guitars to play, but I'm just, he'll tell you, I'm a bit of a fusspot in life. I kind of like everything to be nice and organised.
Is it OCD?
Clean. I'm very OCD.
Yeah, OCD. Yeah.
So if I can have a cleaner guitar, I will. And I've been fortunate in my life. I probably can't afford some of the guitars that are coming up at the prices they are now. But when I bought, I've been able to buy nice, clean guitars. But the truth is, Why was I buying? I was buying the guitars to play, not to look at, and therefore, back in that time, if I hadn't had the money, I still would have bought one that was more beat, right? But I would have tried to find one that was beat but still original.
Yep.
That's important because the original things sound different. They're not just collectible things, they sound good. And the first thing I do, and I do this with any guitar I meet, electric or acoustic, in a shop, I'll walk around the shop.
He does it to my guitars when he comes.
I'll walk around the shop, the guitar.
He visits me and he does this.
Guitar's hanging on the wall and I just do this. Right? Just hit the guitar, don't take it off the wall, and particularly on acoustics, I listen to the A string.
Can I just say, this is really interesting. You know my other friend Brian?
Yep.
I've only got 2 friends, yeah? My other friend Brian.
Your other friend Brian?
He does exactly the same thing.
Right.
He goes into a guitar store and he does that.
And you can walk around a guitar store,
yeah,
and it really pisses the sales assistants off, and it pisses off the people you're with, because it looks as if you're not paying attention to the guitars. You just keep on, and in that guitar shop there may be 200 guitars there, and you'll find 2 you want to go back to.
Yeah, it's so true.
Right,
it's the resonance.
And that, so you can get around Denmark Street, or in the old days you could get around Denmark Street in about 20 minutes this way, because you immediately discount all the stuff that looks pretty, right? Yeah. But is just a bit dead. So the first thing you're looking for in a guitar
sparkle.
is a good acoustic sound.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where you start. And if you've got that, move on. If you haven't got that,
it's going to be a struggle.
It's going to be a struggle.
You're on the back foot, aren't you? So.
And so even if you get quite a beat, you know, but I mean, if this guitar was exactly as it was, but chewed up, and therefore in collecting terms probably, I don't know, 1,000 quid, 1,500 quid off the price.
Yeah.
Right, but same guitar. You plug it in, and furthermore, there is of course the old thing about, if a guitar's that clean, it hasn't been used. Why hasn't it been used? Could it be because it's a dog?
And it just never sounded good.
And there are
stiff and hard to play.
And you come across guitars like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas a guitar that's really worn, chances are it's been pre-loved.
And who knows what his story? He could have been on famous albums.
Absolutely.
You know, that's the charm of these guitars.
But the thing is, as I said, my advice to people used to be, if they were thinking about dumping £4,000, say, on an R8, you know.
No, I'm going to take this, Bob, because you're going to get this horrid little guitar out of its case.
Oh, okay. Yes, I am.
Which was influenced. A certain guitar was these guitars were an inspiration, fellas, for this guitar that he's going to bring out. Now, I'm not a fan particularly of this guitar, but
okay. No, in fact, I have said quite unpleasant things about this very guitar on this show before. This is my 88 PRS. So 88 makes it one of the first ones to come this side of the pond, and it's a very early production model. It's got all your wood. It's got your usual dentist appointments. You know, it's a beautiful
now the original
piece of furniture.
Now his original model, which is basically the Santana 3 or the Santana guitar. Do you want to? It was basically one of them, wasn't it, or one of these?
So
it was one of these shapes.
Exactly. No, it's one of these. So basically, there's so much in these guitars that is in common. Okay, that Paul Reed Smith undoubtedly took this guitar, this kind of guitar, as the primary inspiration, right? Yeah. So he was a guitar repairer,
right? And
he repaired lots of guitars, got to see what worked, what didn't, just like amp repairers, same story.
Yeah.
And he came across a lot of these, and he absolutely loved, particularly in his case, the double cut Les Paul Jr. configuration. He absolutely loved it.
So I want to go on record here, Bob, and just say that Paul Reed Smith is I admire the guy. And he's a very clever man. It's just that I don't like the PRS guitars. I just never gelled with them. But I want to say on record here that he's a very clever, talented man.
Well, the other thing is, who would have said, before PRS, who would have said that another guitar company could come to light up at that end of the American market and challenge Gibson and Fender?
Oh, he did because Gretsch and Guild couldn't do it. They got close, but
So he did a remarkable thing, and the guitars are amazing. Having said that, there is still a bit of an issue about the fact that most of these guitars are bought by people for who the guitar is a very, very distant second or third way of living. Right? There are very few. Okay, there's a clutch of them in kind of new metal, and there's a few math rockers and stuff like that. But generally speaking, you don't find many guitar heroes.
Yeah, I mean, Decky Betts had one. Hubert Sumlin was given one.
Okay, didn't even know that.
Yeah, I think a few of the a few of these kind of old rockers were given these guitars, to put on the front of guitar magazines, But they'd made their legacy on Gibsons,
Yeah.
Fenders.
Yeah.
For me, well, I've done a whole video on this. You can check the video I've made on this, but no, I kudos to Paul Reed Smith for seeing how great these Gibson Juniors were and basing his guitar off of that.
Yeah, there's lots of examples. This is a mahogany back and neck, so he's taking the mahogany thing.
Yeah.
The neck, tenon and join, very, very similar.
Yeah.
Although, for some mysterious reason, Paul Reed Smith likes the neck tenon to start much further out, stick out of the back of the body. And I mean, this is an early one. The more recent guitars, it sticks out about here. It looks like the neck hasn't been pushed in the last 2 inches.
Well, I
Which is
think
a bit weird.
Yeah, I think there's some kind of a strange neck joint on that one. If you X-rayed it, there is actually the way it joins the body could be one of the reasons I don't like it.
Okay.
And another reason I don't like these guitars is if you flip it over again, Bob, you see that tremolo system?
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of the wood outside the middle of it, which could be another reason why they don't resonate the way I like a guitar.
But I mean, when he produced these, he was trying to produce a guitar that was something of an average between a Strat and a Les Paul.
He was, yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
So even down to the scale length, which sits in between the two, so the tension is an average.
And he preferred 9.5 strings, didn't he?
Well, the 9.5 was invented, I think, a bit later because.
But it was PRS that did it.
Well, it was invented for PRS because if you were used to playing 10s on a Gibson and 9 on a Fender, which most people were.
Yeah.
Then the equivalent feel, the gauge, was a 9.5. So D'Addario slipped in and made a 9.5. And I don't know whether the chicken or the egg came first, but
right, I see,
but it was around the same time. I mean, when this guitar was made, 9.5s were not made. They came in months or a year later. Right. But you've got a carved maple top on mahogany, Les Paul. Yeah. You've got a floating tremolo system, Strat.
Yes.
Right, and you've got a scale length. It's halfway between the two. You've got a neck that is very definitely informed by a Gibson profile, right down to the sharpness of the edges. Everything feels quite like that one actually, right? And everything. And the other thing is, if you were walking around that shop again, it's hanging on the wall. Does it resonate?
Does it?
Not bad, but not as good as these.
I mean, I would take one of these like a million times more than one of them.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Yep.
I just think that looks pompous.
And the market is with you. The market is with you as well because the market says at the moment I am thinking of selling this guitar. I've been thinking for a long time. I've actually kind of withdrawn from it because I stuck a bare knuckle pickup I had spare in here, hating the previous PRS HFS. Horrible, squawky thing.
Dragons or whatever they're called.
No, not even that. No. Before that, it was the original hot fat.
Yeah,
hot fat screen.
I mean, they're beautiful. They are, in one sense, they are beautiful, but in another sense, they're just like so unfashionable, so unguitaristic. There's no like that. How many years old is that?
1988. So this is quite old now. It's
but
30.
It doesn't look old. It looks brand new.
Well, but that's because I'm a piss pot. I mean, that's my fault.
No, but even if it was, they just don't age. They don't become relics. Do you see what I mean?
Well, they probably are. I mean, the trouble is, the kind of people who buy these guitars don't really play them death in a way that's going to make them relic. For the most part.
But I mean, this is nearly mint. This one here. This one is nearly mint, and it just looks cool and old and vintage. Whereas that one is now getting to a vintage state, but it looks horribly new.
Well, back to my earlier point. This is easily vintage.
Really?
Right.
We're on the last camera. That one's gone, but we'll continue on this camera.
Right. So, but this guitar is easily vintage in terms of counting numbers of years. I would not describe this as a vintage guitar. This is an early modern guitar.
But it will become vintage soon.
Well, more than half the market at the moment. Everyone's mad. There's a whole collector market for early Paul Reed Smiths.
Wow.
But at the same time, if you're out there, make a bid. But at the moment, I've tried to elicit offers for this, sensible offers, and I've had nothing. I've had nothing offered for this guitar that comes close to half the price of that, or a quarter of the price of the other two. Okay. So back to my point about vintage is actually let the market and let the price define.
Right.
Don't argue about, is it 32 years old? It's all rubbish, right? If you accept my definition, not a vintage guitar, fellas.
No.
Okay, having said that, this guitar has got the best action of any guitar I own, probably have ever owned. It plays like the wind. If I want to play really fast bullshit, off the scale, and now I've put a different pickup in, actually I can get it to sound pretty good. So I'm hanging on to it, and I do play it.
You were playing.
Whereas there was a time when it just sat in its box.
No, but I remember I came in. I said hello to Bob today, and he'd been playing it. So what can I say? I mean, I personally hate them, but it's just me.
But the funny thing is now, because of the associations with it, if I was to go out and play a gig with this, I actually feel quite self-conscious about it, because I'd feel like a weekend warrior, like a dentist. Okay, I know that's what I am.
It comes with a lot of preconceptions.
I know that's what I am, but now...
No, you're a great player.
But, I think it would remind me of who and what I really was, whereas these things remind me of who and what I want to be.
This is the real deal. That's pretending. That's the way I see it. Okay then, guys, that's it from Bob and I. It's been really... This is first of many. We're going to be coming back with some really cool videos.
Hopefully soon. I mean, as the restrictions are gradually lifting, we should be able to do this more. As you can see from today, you're probably going to find that the sound is inferior to the last video, but hopefully the lighting is an improvement. So we're kind of listening to your comments as we go along.
Yeah.
One day, I think the idea is that we'll get into this or another room with everything. That's the sound, the lights, and all the rest of it. At the moment, I tend to avoid it because I get a bit claustrophobic with too much spaghetti. But we might have all the production values.
We'll do one. And we'll do one from the pub maybe as well.
Oh.
We'll do a live thing from the pub, and we'll do a question and answer.
The one thing I really am missing, I'm not a beer drinker, but I really miss a pint of warm, brown British beer, because I haven't had one for 14 months.
What's your tipple? What do you like?
Just a pint of
Adnams?
bitters. Love Adnams.
Adnams, yeah.
Yeah, love it. Or almost anything.
The speckled hen?
Speckled hen, well, that's the draft stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff in bottles is good, but it's not the same.
Right.
So, pint and a pub. So that's got to be a priority. And on that note...
It's goodbye from him.
It's goodbye from him, and hope you have a pint and a pub very soon. Until next time.
Take it, guys.
Cheers.
God bless.